Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Lample, the Joe behind Joe Gardner, and welcome to the Joe Gardner Show. Today, we are in for a treat. I get to have a conversation with someone that I have known and admired for about 25 years, my friend, Dr. Allan Armitage. If you've ever spent time in the world of gardening or horticulture, you probably already know his name. Allan is one of those rare people who has shaped this field from every angle. Research, teaching, plant introduction, storytelling, and just plain passion for helping gardeners grow better. Allan has since retired as professor emeritus in horticulture from the University of Georgia, but over his career, he has spent decades there conducting research, writing, running plant trials, and teaching both students and industry professionals. He's received just about every award a horticulturist can get, and he's written 16 books, many of them go-to references that professionals and gardeners rely on. He's also introduced a lot of plants: Margarita sweet potato vine, Homestead verbena purple, and the Sunlover series of coleus. And he has a podcast and a Grey Garden app that we'll talk about more later. But here's what I love most about Allan. Beyond his credentials and accolades, he's an educator at heart and one of the best storytellers I know. And today's conversation is a perfect example of that because we're talking about something very different than what you might expect from him. Call it a detour from his decades of writing more formal horticulture writing. His latest book, The Common Sense Gardener, feels like you're sitting down with Allan on his back porch, talking plants and life and laughing while learning something real. It's practical, it's insightful, it's funny, and it's full of that no-nonsense wisdom that he delivers better than anyone. So today we're tapping into Dr. Day's decades of wisdom and experience as we're talking about his newest book and his observations and experiences that shaped it, along with lessons every gardener, beginning or serious seasoned gardener, should know. So I'm thrilled to share this conversation with you. So let's get started. Well, I have really been looking forward to this conversation. It's been a long time since we've yucked it up a bit,
Well,
and
we have, and I even got my little hat here for you. I mean, just to make sure that everybody knows who the hell you're talking to, right? But we don't have to put that on now.
yeah,
Yep.
and
But
I
anyway, listen, it's just fun getting together, and I know you're a busy guy, and I've just got stuff here and there, but it's just great getting together. So, and I hope we can do more of this, Joe. I really do. We haven't seen each other for so long.
yeah, I know. I feel the same way. And
We'll see what happens.
speaking of that, and I'm going to leave this in the podcast.
Okay.
I just want to share with you an experience that you will probably recall. I don't know how you can forget it, but I sure have nightmares about it every time I think about it. But about 20 years ago, Allan, do you remember driving from Athens, probably for you about 4:30 in the morning, to be on our radio show at 6 a.m. in
I do
Buckhead?
remember that.
Do you remember the conditions of that day?
Yes. Yes. It was not pleasant.
It was terrible. I was so embarrassed. It was freezing
Well,
cold and rainy, and I felt so bad because who's going to show up to a live radio show in those conditions other than those that have to be there? And I was so thankful that you were there, yet at the same time, I just would have given anything.
listen, we somehow faked it, and that's that. Listen, that's what we do.
You
I,
did.
I, I won't say reached an age of. I mean, I just life is good. If we can do this, like I still play tennis, Joe, and I
Very
was on the tennis
competitively, I
court this
understand.
morning. I was on the tennis court this morning. I've been playing terribly well, but a bad day on the tennis court is better than a good day in the office. So I mean, that just because we are able to do that, and that's this whole gardening thing is all about too. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do whatever we got to do to spread the word because that's essentially what we are. I mean, I call myself a cheerleader now because essentially that's what I do.
And you do a great job at that. And so we're into this podcast now because you've started us off perfectly. And I want to continue that because that's exactly what I was hoping for in this conversation. It's just that casual dialogue between friends and talking about your book. But I have a few questions I prepared for you, an outline at
Please,
least.
please.
And I always love to start with kind of the origin story. And what what are the things or the steps or the events that led you to where you are today? Just kind of in summary, but I kind of prepared a little specific with you. And this is what I
Okay,
like to say to lead you into that. And I'm
okay. Well, that's good. But how I got into this, and I tell this story often, and it's certainly in this book that can I do so?
yeah.
So here I am in I don't know first year college. Say I have no idea what I'm doing, Joe. I've never gardened. I don't know anything. I got a
Okay.
summer job. I got a summer job literally as a grave digger. So I dug graves. Now, it wasn't before front end loaders, but it was before there were a lot of front end loaders. And I literally dug a hole. But the other thing, this was a cemetery which we're very proud of the fact that they provided perpetual care. Now, perpetual care today kind of means they mow the grass. Perpetual care there was, and this is in Canada, by
Yeah.
the way, going from Montreal, this is Montreal area. That meant that we literally planted the gravesite. So that 6x4 dirt bed, good raised bed, by the way, it was, and we had a little greenhouse, and they taught me how to take cuttings and do this whole alternantheras and the jugas and this, all little ground covers, and we planted the beds. Now, that's cool. But the coolest thing and reason that, and it took me a long time to really, for this to fill in here, is that I had finished the day. It was 5 o'clock. I was tired. I was sweaty. I was hot. We had just finished a couple of days ago planting this gravesite. It was really lovely. And again, I didn't know anything. I was just a hired help, believe me. And this family started coming up the hill. They were bereft. They were, in tears. It was something this loved one had just passed away not so long ago. They'd had the funeral not so long ago. And they were just sort of holding each other up. And honest to God, I can't make this up. They came up the hill and they saw that gravesite and how beautiful it was. The grass was cut, of course. I mean, it didn't make their loss any less, but they smiled.
Oh.
They actually talked to each other and said, "Oh, look how beautiful this is." And I was hiding behind a tree. and that was the first time that it kind of dawned on me, Joe, that this whole flower garden thing may actually make people happy. And, I was dumb and young and stupid. I thought that was cool. And then I forgot all about it for a few years. But that was the very first thing, I think, or a second thing that really kind of made me think about this stuff.
That's a new story to me. I love that story. And no matter how many times you've told it, I'm sure it's fun for you to tell. And I know everyone that hears it loves it.
Grave digger to the, I mean, it was really quite lovely. But anyway, that's how I actually learned what a greenhouse was. And it was a little tiny little thing in a graveyard. But we did some plants. It was good fun.
Yeah, I'll bet. We have a lot in common, but that just reminds me of something else I'm going to add to the list of things we have in common, sort of. But when I was in high school, my mother made me take a career personality test or something where they score, you fill out a questionnaire and score, and they tell you what you're best at if you want to have a full-time career. Guess what my number one recommendation was?
I can't imagine.
Funeral director.
There you go. There you go. And you probably would have been very good at it. I mean, it's so interesting. And I've been fortunate. I've been asked to speak at graduation exercises for the School of Agriculture, not for the big deal where the politicians and all those big people come in, for the School of Ag. And I did it 2 or 3 times. And there's all these parents there, all their kids. And this is the whole School of Ag. So it's a good number. And I'm up there, yada, yada. They wonder who the heck I am. But I tell them, I look at the parents and I say, "Dad, Mom, congratulations, you got your kid through school." But they probably have no idea what they're going to do. But I said, "Don't worry." I said it like this, and I made them all, well, some of them laugh anyway.
Yeah.
I said, "Don't worry. You just have to remember the advice of America's greatest philosopher." Okay. And I said, his name is Yogi Berra. Okay. So the dads immediately pick up on this, right? The moms aren't too sure. And Yogi Berra said that when the path forks, take it. That's what he said. And that's how Joe, that's how you got to where you are. That's how I got to where I am. All our listeners, somehow, some path forked, and somehow we took it. And I said, your kids are going to be just fine. Don't worry. And they're smart enough to get through here. They're going to do just fine. But the dads thought that was great. I'm not sure the moms really got it, but
yeah, deja vu all over again.
Yeah, deja vu all over again. Exactly right.
I love that. So that's probably a good segue for me to come back in with a question. and we'll go from here. But I did want to ask you, because something I've always been admired about you, and that is, with all your accolades and your credentials, I think you're the most humble horticulturalist at the highest level that I know. But I kind of see you as the epitome of the down to earth gardener next door.
Mhm.
So with that, just is that just you? I think that's just who you are. I don't think you try to
Well,
be.
thank you. And it's not that I try to be like that. Honest to
Yeah,
goodness, that is who I am.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know how to be any different. I guess. I mean, I could go stand on some ivory tower somewhere, and I got all this and do all this. And of course, if you read my bio, it's actually pretty awful. I mean, it just goes on forever. But the fact is, I don't know how I did all this stuff. My wife calls me a Taz, like a Tasmanian devil, like I can't stay still. I'm into this, into that. But as far as the humility thing, we've all been there. Uh, I just think, especially this gardening thing, I don't care what it is. I guess like that. I'm actually going to do some other things later, but um, it's gardening. It's not brain surgery.
Hmm.
It's not rocket science. If you mess up, it's gardening.
Yeah.
I mean, and so this is what when I talk to people, this new book I know we're going to talk about, but it really, it's like your first computer you ever had. You were afraid to touch it. You're afraid of to hit that button or this key. And it's the same thing with many people in the garden.
Yeah.
Sun and shade. They don't even know what it means.
Right.
This whole darn Georgia red clay or wherever you happen to live. And this whole thing about pruning, Joe. Oh my God. People are so confused. And so this book I just did, I was never, now I think you've read it. I never was going to do a book on gardening. I mean, people ask me to do a book on gardening, but I just do what I do.
Yeah.
Um, but because there's a zillion books on gardening, there's 8 zillion internet things, and everybody is an expert. So, but it happened just one time too many, I guess. I take a lot of walkabouts in my garden
Hmm.
online. I'm always traveling somewhere. And if I travel somewhere, I'm usually asked to do a walkabout, which means you walk around and you tell stories. Okay. I mean, whatever. I don't, whatever's going to be there. I know, as you do also, I bet, I know I can name at least 8 questions I'm going to get before I even meet the audience. Okay. I know I'm going to get pollinators. I know I'm going to get deer. I know I'm going to get, so I just know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The one common denominator of all these groups is confusion. They are simply confused. And I mean, confused in that they heard this from somebody,
Yeah.
they heard that from somebody, they read
Yep.
this over here, and the internet said this, and none of them are wrong. It's just that they're confused. So, this whole thing, let's use some common sense. And that's what I try to do in this last book. And you'll notice how short it is and how small it is because common sense doesn't need to have a whole lot of description. There you go. That
Which
fellow
is
on the
what I
cover is me.
which is what I love about it, and also the juxtaposition of all the other 16 books and counting, I think, that are all academic based and reference guides and, revered around the world for their information that's provided in it. And then you come and write this, and that was going to be my next question, but you answered it in the preface of it. Um, I think, and this is what I think you said. You said, what pushed you over the edge was that this book was not because of the lack of information, but the apparent lack of common sense, right?
Apparently. Yep. Well, and I don't know if my common sense is any better than anybody else's common sense. It's just, I've just because I've been around this long and I guess experience counts as something. Age certainly doesn't, but experience probably does. And so I wrote down, and I wrote down as you read, this is very different than any other book I've written and most other books on horticulture. This is a narrative. This is me, or this is not me, but the common sense gardener talking to the fellow who wants to learn and then
Yeah.
sends them to other people. And it's a conversation. And that is, at least for me, rather unusual way to write a book on horticulture.
And about the style of the book or the format of this one, where you have the character Evan,
Yeah.
who's frustrated in his garden. He feels a little overwhelmed and he's seeking answers. And so
Yes.
he gets introduced to the common sense gardener who then refers him to other people. How did you come up with that format? I just loved it. And right from the start, it sucks you in with Evan sitting in his garden, and who can't relate to what he's feeling in the moment, right?
Well, when you read a book, I mean, just read a book in your lap or whatever, you read a mystery book, you read an airplane book, it's people are talking to each other. Okay. That's just sort of the way a book's no, just what every book is. Except when you get into our field, I'm going to tell you how the great 10 perennials, and this is 10 perennial number one, two, so I wanted to do something like that. There was a book written many, many years ago in the business world that followed this format that I really liked. And so I guess I stole a little bit of that idea too. And I, I don't feel guilty about borrowing from other people, but it's obviously just the idea that let's have two people talk.
Yeah.
And then let's have one person, instead of talking all the time, let's have that person send them to other people who have talked to this guy before.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk to somebody who knows about, and it might compost, or somebody who knows about what they do to squirrels or whatever. So that was just that. So that's the idea of how I did it. And I want to tell you, Joe, as you said before, and thank you, I've written a number of books. I had the most fun doing this one.
Wow.
I mean, it was just kind of fun as it evolved. I went back, you do a book, you go back
Yeah.
3 steps, and hopefully you get. But it was. And what's the name of the people? Who's the hell
Yeah.
is that? I don't know. It's a cool name.
So that answers that question.
Yeah. No, I mean, all the factors. Again, I hope people actually do want to get it. But all of the people in the book, except for Evan, were based on real people.
Okay.
They're not. I mean, somebody whose name is Robert say, "Hey, Robert, you're in the book." It wasn't anything he really did, but it's based on real people that I know and met.
Yeah.
Are all of them, if I can use the term, are born again gardeners. They liked it. They wanted to learn more. They were frustrated. We chatted a little bit, and all of them now are just having a ball.
Oh,
And,
that's
and
interesting.
it's not that I taught them a whole lot. It's just that, again, come on over. This is simple stuff to do. Here's how you do it. Put a plant in the ground. Here's how you do it. And there's a chapter there on containers,
Hmm.
and how you can succeed with containers and
Yeah.
baskets. This guy, he didn't have a clue. I said, look, just get a big thing and just go. And anyway, so I say that it wasn't because of me, but it was people that have kind of found the whole, this is great stuff.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. I'm even hesitant to even use the term I'm about to use, but in all that you talked about a minute ago, this most fun book you've ever had a chance to write, and I can imagine why, because everything else you've written is so technical, and I mean, you've got nothing can be wrong, and here you can just kind of wing it, even though it's all accurate. It's more fun and loose and free flowing. But you basically, and another thing I wanted to add to what I'm about to say is that you mentioned all the information out there, and that's not that it's all wrong or all right. It's just a lot. And I call that the noise and the information overload. And people just get overwhelmed and they don't really know who to believe or what to believe is their sources. But anyway, all that to say is I feel like you take what could be or what has been explained as what, overly complicated, and you dumb it down. And that's the term I was trying to not use, but
Yep.
in a good way. You just really
Yep.
simplify it, really is what I'm saying.
Well, thank you. That was the idea,
Yeah.
because, well, I mean, I wasn't when I wrote this thing on common sense, because this is literally, I could take any one of those chapters, have those 20 people walking around with me, and that's exactly what I tell them. Here's pruning in 4 words.
Yeah.
Done. Okay, and I do. It's exactly what I say. And whether and you, Joe, I'm sure you've taken people around. The scary part is they take out their paper and pencil and start writing this down, and you say, "Oh dear." But anyway, it's just it isn't right. It isn't wrong. It's the way that it seems to make sense to me. But I have to, if I can, just tell you. You'll never get me off because I just like telling stories. But I'll tell you one more story about
Okay.
the term dumbing down.
Yeah.
So I was giving a talk at the New York Botanical Gardens many years ago, and I don't know, I was doing something on plants, and there was a rhododendron guy and I mean, big
Yeah.
time tree guy,
Right.
big time.
Yeah.
And so we were all done, and we had the little panel thing. And so questions from the audience, and this person raised their hand. And he said, what do you think? Do you think we should always go with the botanical names only? Because there's more than one common name for all these plants. People get confused, whether it's a swamp mallow or a red hibiscus. People get confused. Don't you think that we should, all of us, everybody in gardening and in the garden writing community, should go with botanical names only? One guy, the tree guy, said, absolutely. The next guy, the camellia, absolutely. I said, you gotta be friggin' kidding. I said, if you want to kill gardening, do it by just having people learn botanical names. And he said, well, isn't that dumbing it down? That's what he said. Isn't
Yeah.
that dumbing down everything? I said, it's not dumbing down. It's raising up, because we'll have a ton more people enjoying gardening. They can learn all the botanical names they want. I'll be happy to teach them, but they shouldn't be expected to know that stuff, to read one of our books and know what the heck we're talking about. I said, if you're going to horticultural school or whatever, learn every botanical name. If you're a gardener, a swamp mallow is just fine with me. I mean, there's so much more fun to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
And so that the whole dumb down thing, I think that there is a dumbing down, to be sure. But what it is I think it's more of a, you say, noise, a confusion. Everybody seems to say that they're the smartest people out there and you should do it my way. And yeah, I don't know. If you don't know anything, who do you believe? And not necessarily me, but there you got a book right in front of you. It's 100 pages and gives you something you can lean on. But anyway, I really love that you mentioned that, because I remember that story like yesterday.
Good. I'm glad that led to you telling that story. I was a little bit hesitant to bring that term up, but now I'm glad I did.
Yeah, no, we're not dumbing down anything.
Yeah.
I think the more common sense, the more things we can do to relate to your mother, your neighbors, your friends, and they look at you like you're a wee bit crazy with a trowel in your hand all the time. But the fact is, the more we can make it, I won't even say simple, just make it comfortable, then the more people we're going to have doing this. It
Yeah.
still work.
Yeah. And to your point, the world needs more gardeners, and we don't need to make it any more intimidating than it is coming.
That's for sure. I agree with you 100%. So let me, okay, I'm sorry. Every time you say something, it reminds you of
Go
something.
for it. No, I love this free
when
flow.
people are telling jokes around the campfire, you couldn't remember a single joke, and all of a sudden. So I'm in, and this is the again, if I had one mantra, one thing to share with people about why in the heck do you care about gardening? I got a little old lady with a hat on, right? It's gardening. And lots of people don't want to garden. I have no problem. I don't care. Just cut your grass. That's all I want you to do. But I'm at the dentist's office. Okay, this is just sort of kind of COVID is finishing, but it's not finished. But we're able to do something. And you got and she's terrific. Kelly was my dental hygienist, and my mouth is taped open and all that stuff. You've been there. They're cleaning the teeth, and she's going on and on about COVID. Okay, what am I going to say? Okay, what am I going to say?
Not
So
much
what she
with your
said,
mouth taped up.
yeah, she said, Dr. A, she said, there's just one thing about COVID I really, really hate. And I'm saying, oh God, here goes. I can't go to dinner. Or, the movies aren't so good at home, so whatever. And she said this. She said, Dr. A, she said, I have nothing to look forward to. This is COVID time. I have nothing to look forward to. My calendar's blank. I can't go anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I have nothing to look forward to. Okay, I can't disagree. I walk out of that office towards my car, and I think to myself, a gardener always has something to look forward to. I don't care. You put a seed in the ground, you look forward to it germinating. You put a bulb in the ground now, you look forward to the spring. You put something, you do something. And how many people can say that? That we are a group of people that always, and that puts smiles on our faces. We're out there weeding and cussing and cursing in the rain and the sleet and the hail and all that, but we know, Joe, it's going to get better next year. We just know that. I mean, yeah. and we still believe in catalogs. I mean, come on, that's who I want as a friend. I really do.
Yeah.
But that's how that came about.
It's uncanny that you brought that story up, because my question that I was about to ask you as you entered that story in was, I said, I wrote myself a note that said, you write in your preference that you've noticed that gardeners are not really like other people. And I believe you alluded very strongly to that in your example just now.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that just a bit to punctuate that comment.
Well, there's gardeners and there's gardeners. Okay, there's your next door neighbor who gets their mow, blow, go guys, and that's fine, absolutely fine. And they see you out there digging in the dirt. They say, that's cool, that's fun, what are you doing? But they're not going to do it. Okay, that's fine. And no problem with that at all. Then there's people that want to learn about or want to do some containers. They want their deck to look nice. They want to put some roses or camellias or whatever it is in. They don't know what to do. Okay, so this is almost getting to be the born again gardener. They want to learn more, but they don't know how to learn it. So they'll continue doing what they'll do, and hopefully they'll continue buying. I don't care if it's if it's asters or if it's petunias. It doesn't matter. They're going to buy something, and hopefully they're going to look good. Then there's the graduates, and that's the graduates meaning the next stage, and they want to get out there and make something. They want to sit in their deck, drink a glass of wine, and look at their garden.
Yeah.
And they don't like working the garden anymore than you and I do, but they're happy to do it because it's like cutting the grass, Joe. I mean, I have a very small garden, so I can't really talk about cutting 5 acres of lawn, but I cut my grass. Smells good, takes me no time,
Yep.
and it looks good.
Yeah.
And the same thing is with a garden. You can drive yourself crazy, but don't. Just as I tell people, find a place you want to stare at, make a little bed, do the things I told you in the little book, put some plants in, and bang, you're off to the races. And that's then those are the people that get dirt under their fingernails. And I'm just as happy to truly have. I drink more wine in my garden than I do anywhere else. Probably that's why my garden always seems to look so good. But the fact is, I drink tea in the morning and I walk around and I drink wine and even in the middle of the summer, well, the morning anyway, I'll do that in the evening.
Yeah.
But that's because I like doing it. And I always have some. Don't we always we're moving something in the garden, or we're saying, how did that even get there? So anyway, I don't mean to wax eloquent here. That's just
You are, yeah.
that's where gardeners are if they like gardening. It's not this whole master gardener thing. I think that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, how many industries, how many businesses have? Every state has a master gardener. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and these people, boy, you talk to them, they are intense.
Oh yeah. Yes, they are. It's my sweet spot for my keynote audience, and I've done one or two of those, and I
love these people.
Yeah.
And again, it's no disrespect, but they got a bit more to learn. But having said that, they want to learn. They really do.
Yeah, they do.
Cool thing.
And your comment about the optimism led perfectly into the last thing I wanted to just mention, because I loved what you said here, and it was that gardeners have more optimism under one dirty fingernail than most people have in their entire bodies. And that's what makes us different, I think.
It is. It definitely makes us different. We actually, as I say, we know what's going to be better next year. We just know. And so we're optimistic all the time, and it's a good thing to be.
It is.
It's a good thing to be.
You think we ought to talk about your new book?
Well, I would love to talk about my new book. Thank you.
That was the plan.
And just I'm going to show you again. This is about us. But there's one thing you mentioned that I got to make sure that the audience understands. I've written a lot of these, as you say, academic books, but they're not really academic. Every book I've written can be in the hands of gardeners. But one of my favorite books, 2 books, in fact, which I'm going to make sure you send me your address, is of Naked Ladies and Forget-Me-Nots. I don't know if you have that. And that's just stories of how plants get their common names.
Yes.
It's just great fun. Who's Joe Pye? Why is a dogwood called a dog? It's nothing to do with dogs. Stuff like that. And that's been a fun book as well. And then the other one that I know
Nellie Stevens
is Legends in the Garden. Who in the world is Nellie Stevens?
Yeah.
Who are these people that we plant? And because we don't tell these stories, they get lost somewhere.
Yes.
But having said that, they are, again, kind of based on how we think we should write a book. The Common Sense Gardener, that's the one that's really, and for what it's worth, Joe, and you've already mentioned it to people, it's been out for a week and a half, maybe, because we just did a Christmas sale, which was November 15th, December 15th, so we get there for Christmas.
Yeah.
And will be in the spring as well. we sold over 300 books just like that. Boom. Yeah, and this is like almost 2 books at a time, or 3 books, or 1 book, or whatever.
Yeah.
So whether it's and that's before anybody's read it. So I think it's the cover
It's
and the name. But anyway, I hope we can get into more hands, and I hope you've enjoyed it. It was fun to do.
well, as I said in the forward or the
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
this called?
The comments. Yeah,
Endorsement. Yeah, I've done a few of these. What is this called?
yeah. I know.
Yeah, I think I started off. Yeah, I did. Right, the first sentence. I love this book! Exclamation point. And it's
Yeah.
true. I just loved it, and I'll have it close by. We have 15 common sense lessons in this book, but we're not going to do all 15 because I want to leave something to the imagination and I want
Please.
people to get this book and read the rest. But we're going to do 7 of them, if
Oof.
that's okay with
Wow.
you.
Okay.
And we don't need to, whatever you want to spend with them, wax eloquently as much as you want. But the ones I wanted to list, the first one was common sense gardening lesson number 1, sun versus shade.
Hmm.
And before you take off on this one, I just love your answer comes down to 2 words.
2 words. I know. It's kind of embarrassing. There's whole books on this. Well, and the reason I put any of those chapters in is, as I mentioned before, these are the kind of questions I get
Yeah.
all the time. And it's not like sun and shade is all that difficult to understand, but what is difficult is these gardeners, people who want to garden, they go into a garden center and they get these big signs, shade-loving plants and sun-loving plants. And they don't, okay, so what does that mean? I don't put under a tree. Okay, I got that. I can handle that. But all I simply say, and for those of you who are a little confused, there's no such thing as an amorous plant. Plants don't love anything. They don't love you. They don't love anything. They tolerate. And so if all we think about is changing one word from love to tolerate, then you have sun tolerant and shade tolerant. And all that means a shade tolerant plant. Keep it out of the afternoon sun. That's it. That's it, period. That's the only difference between a sun plant and a shade plant, whether it tolerates that brutal Western afternoon sun. So a rose loves it. Well, hosta not so much. Okay, so I don't. Obviously, there's entire, as I say, books on this, so it can't be that simple. But for me, that's my little lesson on don't take life too seriously here.
As I read that, and I think it's the last wrap up in that lesson is that all things just afternoon sun is the thing you need to know. And I'm like, how brilliant is that?
Well, I think it makes sense. I mean, I may be wrong, but I think it makes sense.
It does. And I mean, that really wraps it up. But is there anything else there you want to cover? Not that you need to. I just want to make sure we don't miss
No,
it.
but I mean, the labels are confusing because like I said, I don't know. I don't know how much I got into in the book, but I had people that were so confused about the sun, not because they understood sun, but it's different in the morning, it's different in the afternoon, it's different at night. So if I put a sun plant right here, well, sometimes it won't forget about it. This guy had a piece of paper, and he had something in front of the sun. So he'd read that if the shadow is sharp on the paper, that's full sun. If
Oh.
the shadow is not so sharp, it's, oh, come on. And he's absolutely right, of course, but come on.
Mm.
Anyway, so let's just make it a little simpler.
Yeah. Overthinking it. But so there's some people that they love that kind
Well, I
of
love that. I have no
detail and
problem with
that
that either.
depth for sure.
But
Um, Lesson number 2 is interesting because I think in lesson number 2 title is common sense planting, but I don't think people would intuitively go where you went with that title.
No, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm setting it up. Go for it.
Well, the reason it was called common sense planting is I think Evan goes to this fellow's place and he walks around and he sees it. First of all, there's hardly any weeds. And he wonders, this guy must be on his hands and knees all day. And he said, well, no, I just put in more good guys, so there's less room for the bad guys. And essentially my common sense lesson there was, I get it. Read the books, put things a foot apart or 2 feet apart or whatever. I just put them together. Or I should say the common sense gardener, but that's not. Anyway, I just put the things together. And so as I mentioned, the common sense gardener says, think of it as a house. Your floor is your bed, put ground covers. Then plant in the ground cover. then plant something taller around the thing you just planted in ground cover. So in that 3 square feet, you may have 4 plants.
Yeah.
And of course, the pushback I'm going to get, I haven't got it yet, I know I will, is that, well, what happens? They're all going to grow into each other. Where's, they're going to get disease and all that. That's not true. That's not true. Okay. I mean, of course you can overdo it, but if I'm going to put in bulbs, I mean, I don't care whatever bulbs they are, I'm going to put them bulb to bulb. Okay.
Hmm.
I'm not going to buy three. I'm going to buy as many as I can afford, which may be 10, and put them bulb to bulb. They're going to come up. They're going to come up through the ground cover or whatever else is already there. Heck, if I know it's there,
Yeah.
and then you're going to mess with those leaves for a while. Then something else is going to come up. That's why I say there's if you plant like this, there's not a lot of room for weeds. I mean, you're going to get them. Of course, we're going to get
Yeah.
them, but there's just less space to do that. So and it's like, and I don't even know what the lesson said, but I think it said something along the ways that more good guys, less or fewer bad guys.
I think you summed it up. You put more good guys in to leave less for the bad guys. That is
but but and,
perfectly clear.
but but I don't know if you're going to mention, but so the and I thought about is there a should I put this lesson in before this lesson? And I was
Yeah.
thinking about all those things, and one of the lessons, I say lessons, one of the common sense things was, the difference between mulch and compost. And
Hmm.
and people are truly confused about that. They just think it's all the same, or if they don't think it's all like a same, they just don't quite get it. But one of the lessons I mentioned was how to improve soil was simply, God, get as darn much compost as you can get, as you can either do yourself, can afford, or do whatever, and put that stuff down. And that is what goes into the soil. That's the organic stuff that makes your soil better. You don't even have to dig it in. You can be lazy
Yeah.
like me,
Yeah.
just throw it on top, but do it every year. And so, but if you have that, you have good soil, then you have a plant that's growing well. And I don't care how many there are, if it's growing vigorously, disease and insects will be minimal.
Hmm.
So it's not that I'm crowding everything in, there's no air and all this stuff. I've got them in a decent soil. I've got them growing well, and all of us can do that. I mean, and it's not for everybody. It's just the way that lesson came out.
And that was the next one I was going to talk about anyway. So once again, we're in simpatico here with the order of the things we're talking about naturally. I love that. Was mulch in that section? Remind me. Do you remember?
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
because Evan was, I don't know, it was Robert or whoever he was with, and he said, "But I get this compost now that you've told me about it, but everybody talks about mulch.
Mhm.
Everybody tells me to put mulch down for water retention and all these things he's heard about." And he says, "You haven't talked about mulch." And I think Robert comes back and says, "Well, mulch is great, but quite truthfully, mulch is ornamental. In the South, we put pine straw down or something else, or maybe we'll put that black dye stuff because we want it to be ornamental. And it does, most mulches do nothing to
Yeah.
enhance the soil. They don't hurt it,
Yeah.
they just don't do anything. So if you have a choice financially, I can only do one or the other. Do compost. And if your wife says do the pine straw, then you do the pine straw.
Yeah.
But but mulch is good. I don't mean there's nothing wrong with mulch, but compost is the key. Compost is the key to everything.
Yeah. I 100% agree with the compost. I use mulch in my pathways
Yeah, oh
and
yeah, oh
yeah.
yeah.
And no, I
Oh, I
love,
use mulch everywhere. Yeah, I have my pathways to be sure because, I think I know nothing about mulch, but if you're talking about the soil,
yeah.
your garden soil, or
Yeah. Yeah.
even
Yeah.
containers, you're talking about, if you can, put the compost down.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
This is what I wanted to tell you as you were explaining that to me. It made me think of this. I'll tell my story now.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
please.
I get my natural hardwood mulch because I
Yeah,
like to, where I use it, I like it to be there and let it just slowly break down so that, whatever organic matter is going to trickle in, so be it. And good for hopefully it all works together. But anyway, there's a place up the street from me, literally up the street, that I go and get my natural hardwood mulch. And
yep,
the last time I went to go get a couple truckloads full, I had pulled my pickup truck up there, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna pay for a yard or two of natural mulch." He said, "Well, you mean dyed mulch?" I said, "No, natural hardwood mulch, undyed, because they do a lot of dyed mulch.
Oh
And
yeah, 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 yeah.
he said, well, we're out of stock on natural. I'm like, what do you mean you're out of stock? You got so much mulch. He said, I know, but the demand for the dyed mulch is so high that we had to use what we had for natural for the dyed mulch. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I didn't know this, Alan, but this is what I learned that day. I'm still aghast by it. Around where I live, there's a lot of HOAs that mandate that
Mm.
if people use mulch, and I think they mandate they have to use mulch, but it can only be one of three colors: red, black, or brown, dyed. Can't be natural brown. It has to be dyed brown.
That's absolutely
Can you believe that?
silly. It's just silly.
Yeah.
It's just, and again, that's what I don't want to get off on this HOA stuff, but that's what messes up this whole thing. It's gardening is gardening. And I don't need some committee to tell me I should put red mulch, which is about the most ugly thing in the world. Excuse me for anybody who has it. But but anyway, so be it. But that's just silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. But anyway, mulch is just fine. But the problem, and again, the dyed stuff, what people don't realize is that dye will also go into the ground. I mean, and over time, it's not doing the ground, it's not doing your soil any favors. I mean, like you say, the natural stuff will break down. You'll get some organic matter out of it, not as quickly as you do with compost, but you
Yeah.
will. It's
Oh,
fine
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Even pine straw will eventually go down, but
Yeah.
it's not doing a whole lot as quickly as you'd like it to do. For me, I get a pickup truckload of compost, and our landfill does it, which is great.
Yeah.
Get really good compost, and it's cheap because you can get it by the pickup load. And I put it down every single February. I put that down.
Yeah.
And
Is your land, you said your landfill, is it really your landfill, or is it the composting facility? I've been to your
yeah,
Athens.
no, it's the Athens Clark County landfill, but they have a compost facility,
Okay.
and you can go in there and buy a pickup load for 20
I've been,
bucks.
yeah, I've been
And
there.
and,
It's
it, and,
amazing.
it- and you don't have to be a resident.
Oh, really? That's good to know. I have
Yeah.
compost lust after going there. It was
Oh
very
yeah.
interesting.
Anyway, we're very fortunate that way, though.
You are.
Yeah, I mean, I know it costs money, but that allowed. But even if you got your budget of $30 a compost, then get as many bags as you can and stick it somewhere. It's just not going to hurt anything.
It's an investment. It's 100% an investment, in my opinion.
Yeah, or if you're really lucky and you know some horse farmers and cow farmers and get the manure, that's just as good.
Okay,
Yeah,
caveat
absolutely.
there, as long as it doesn't have persistent herbicide in the horse manure.
Right, as long as it doesn't have the junk in it and the weed seeds and all that other stuff that we're
Yeah.
feeding the cows these days. But if you
Yeah.
have some, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have to have more conversations because there's a lot to talk about there, including my bad experience poisoning my own soil with
Oh,
pictogram.
I
Yeah.
did something. I did the same thing. So we will have that
Okay. All
conversation.
right. See there, people. We people that supposedly kind of know what they're talking about.
Yeah, there's no experts here in this room, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, you also already kind of tipped your hat to this one that about common sense disease and insect management, but you talked about making your plants as healthy as they can goes a long way to making your plants more disease and insect resistant.
Well, again, if you read that chapter, some of the stuff I mentioned there is kind of sounds silly. It works, but it sounds silly. The water hose and stuff like that. But the fact is, if your plants are growing well, that means they are in places they tolerate shade, sun. The soil is better than it was.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. And you fertilize occasionally. We didn't talk about that much, but the fact is they are going to be far more resistant to both disease and insects. I mean, they just are.
Yeah.
And of course, if you obviously don't throw any of those silly herbicides and all that other nonsense we still do, but the insects are going to be the ones you want to have around anyway.
And to me, it seems so intuitive. I think about it in terms of, when we are trying to be healthy in our lifestyle and what we eat and how we take care of our bodies, we're less, we're more resistant to, the things that would come our way versus the people that, aren't tend to get sicker more often, tend to
Right.
probably not be
Yep.
proactively managing their resilience as much.
I mean,
Does that make sense?
well, we're all carbon beings, and we all have whether it's a flower, a camellia, or a person, take care of ourselves as best we can. And we're the ones that are throwing all this stuff on plants. They don't go to the grocery store and, buy the chocolate bars like we do. Yeah, that is the key. And the key is it's not obviously it's not as simple as to say, but keeping your plants healthy. That is the key,
Yep.
truly.
And here again, you kind of jumped right towards the next one we're going to talk about, and that was common sense garden fertilization. This was an interesting one for me to read on what you wrote about that, but a super simple way to get the nutrients to your plants beyond the benefit of compost. Obviously, you've
Yeah.
clearly made that point very clear. But anyway, touch on what you talked about there.
Well, the fertilizing is hard to talk about in
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
common sense manner.
Right.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I still am confused, and I also we won't talk about. I also mentioned something about what bag soil you buy. It's confusing as heck when you see all those, and I hopefully made some sense out of it. The fertilizer for me, 95% of the fertilizer sold at Lowe's and Home Depot and the garden center is for turf. Okay,
Yeah.
that's where everybody's throwing fertilizer on. Fertilizers for gardens, i.e., your garden, your container, whatever. Uh, it's pretty simple. If you have the opportunity to use an organic fertilizer, I mentioned this, and I happen to mention something called the hose end sprayer
Yeah.
because it's easy to do that. I mean, again, I have a small garden. It's a just 60 by 100, whatever it is. But in the spring, I will nuke this stuff with organic, pretty much organic fertilizer through the end of the hose.
Uh-huh.
Because if it's organic or mostly organic, you can't over fertilize. And I didn't get into all this, but what over fertilize means is you put on too much of these um, inorganic stuff, you got all
Right.
these salts that are carried in it, and that's what hurts the plant if you do it too much.
Mhm.
So with the organic stuff, you can find it, and it's out there, and you can do it as a layer. You can do it at a hose end sprayer. You can do it as osmocote or slow release fertilizers. But I think but my lesson in that one, if I recall, was Evan was bemoaning the fact he didn't know when to fertilize. So they fertilize in the spring and the summer because in the summer he didn't know how about in the fall when they're going to bed. And I tried to put it, I don't know, 5 words, whatever it is, fertilize when actively growing.
Yeah.
That's the only time we need to fertilize
Yeah.
because it's just you just don't need to be well. First of all, you don't unless it's an organic fertilizer. You're probably going to damage the plant if you throw fertilizer on and it's not actively taking it up. Okay,
Yeah.
because that's what it means by actively growing. It's actively taking up the fertilizer. So in the spring, boy, things are popping, and we got a month or so we can do it. When I say I nuke it, I don't. I fertilize. Hell, I'll fertilize twice a week if I want,
Yeah.
because I can't hurt anything. And
Right.
it's so easy to do the containers of that hose end sprayer or your window boxes. But when it's 95 degrees out there, 98 degrees, maybe you've got a I don't know, a peach tree or something, but most of the stuff is just hanging in there.
Yeah.
And certainly most of the certainly annuals, perennials, and all those other things we want for our own pleasure, they don't need more fertilizer.
Right.
So that was my kind of tried to put that in perspective as to when fertilizing, when actively growing forwards.
Yeah. Very good. I liked lesson 7, common sense garden design. That was one I've heard, I've been aware of it, but oftentimes we need to hear or be reminded of something more than once. And in your case, this really got me thinking again, I need to do more of this common sense garden design. So tell us about that one.
Well, again, there are some lessons to me that are really easy. Evan just needed to know the fertilizing thing and this compost thing and just just really easy stuff, pruning thing. For me, easy. I mean, easy to explain. Design. So I will be the first to tell you, Joe, that I am not a designer. So any designers out there listening, I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm quite happy to admit that if you ask me to write a design on paper, I can't do it. But I can design my own garden. I can design your garden. We can walk around together and say this should go here and that should go there. So okay, so that was one of the things I mentioned and that the whole first chapter about putting things close together because then your color design starts to make sense. And then I think I mentioned the maxim about if you divide a garden in half, you multiply it by 2.
Yeah.
And essentially that means that if we just have everything sort of stuck under one place, it's lovely, but it's boring.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going in, and the English do it with these garden rooms. Well, I don't have
Yeah.
any garden rooms, but I have a front and a back, and I'm going to get you there. So you're not thinking about going from a front to a back. You're going to another little area. And so I don't know if that's design, but I really feel that. And then you go from this really cool garden in the front, it's really cool. And then you go here and you don't think about a whole lot because you're looking at whatever you're looking at. And then all of a sudden you come to what I call the wow garden, your backyard. Oh, wow, it's all there. And it makes the place look bigger, which is nice.
Yeah. It
It,
does.
it makes it, I don't want to say less boring, it's just more exciting. And you know, when you're talking about exciting with a gardener, it just means that things are looking fun and the buds are budding and the flowers are flowering and the butterflies are humming. So that's the design. But if you ask me to write on paper how to do a hardscape and softscape and all that stuff, I'd probably be terrible. But I can do it in my own garden just fine, thank you.
Sure. Well, I think there's a lot of psychology to dividing it up to, rooms, for lack
Mhm.
of a better term, so that you're not
Right,
seeing it all at once and
right.
getting, the one shot and you're done. You take it all in and okay. Like you said, it may be beautiful, but at the same time, it's somewhat
Yeah,
visibly
and I
boring.
think without getting too crazy here, that's why if you plant a lot of things together, like talk to the ground cover and then something in the
Right.
ground cover, something,
Layers.
I can spend 15 minutes with you and not move 10 feet.
Yeah.
So it's like you have a room everywhere you walk.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not
Yes.
quite set out like that, but if I just got to, I mean, I say that in all due respect. Everybody's garden, it's their own. If you love it,
Of
I love
course.
it. It doesn't matter. But I don't know. That's just how I enjoy it. That's all. And I don't
Well,
even know I'm doing that, but it turns out I am.
yeah. You said something a minute ago. I think I heard you say I got to get you. I have a get you there. So you talked about your front yard, and then I think you said I got to get you there. Then I have my backyard.
Yeah. So I
That
take
so you do a little something in the
yeah, I take it what
intersection.
I don't know if I think I actually even mentioned it by that called the tunnel. So
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah,
it's a side of the house is all it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
But I've put mulch down on the walkway. I got camellias on one side and
Yep.
on the other, and I've got a rose that's growing crazy and it's
Beautiful.
shady
Yeah,
as heck. So down the bottom, I've got some maybe impatience or something. But you're looking at these things,
yeah.
and it's not you can run through it and not say anything, but you're just going slowly. So I'm getting you from A to B. So you've almost forgotten A by the time you get to B. And
Mhm.
that's the idea that the garden seems twice as large as it is. Well, I'm not so sure that may be true, but this is me.
Love it because that's a very commonly neglected area is that
Yeah,
path
yeah,
to get to the other place.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah. And here's the one you started off with that we're going to end with as far as the lessons go, and that was common sense pruning. And you really simplified this one down too.
well, again, just people talking about this, and they're afraid to prune, or you may have some guy that the macho guy, he wants to cut everything to the ground in the fall. Okay, I mean that's just, but most people who, and again, what I tried to, I don't know, this is not a large chapter, but what I tried to make people understand is that a plant does not need to be pruned.
Yeah.
There's nobody out there with secateurs or loppers in the natural environment, other than deer, moose, or whatever. So it doesn't need to be chopped, cut, shaped, or anything. We do it because it's in a garden. A garden is very artificial. It's we take that the boxwood, which somewhere in nature there was a huge boxwood, and somebody's done this, that, and the other thing, or we take our camellias and we want to keep them but the plant doesn't need it. So when it comes to pruning, are there not entire books on pruning hydrangeas or pruning clematis? Entire books, and they're all correct. I'm not arguing with any of them. But as I said, I don't know, I think I may have said in this book too. Sounds like a much larger book than it really is, but there's 7 gardening for dummies books, all over 200 pages. And I said to myself, what self-respecting dummy is going to buy a 200-page book on something they have no idea what they're doing? So the whole idea is to make it down and to cut it down. So pruning, hydrangea, that's the number one that
Yeah.
everybody uses. And I said, and if you start looking at it, there's old wood and there's new wood and there's grandma's, big mop heads, and then there's all these new fabulous, paniculata types. They're all so nobody knows what to do.
Yeah.
4 words: cut back after flowering. Doesn't matter if it's new wood, old wood, or whose wood. It does not matter. And if you want, that is if you want flowers the next year, you can cut them back anytime if you want. But if you want flowers the next year, cut it back after it's flowered. It'll then make new shoots. And if it's like your grandma's mop heads, they actually are initiating now. There's flower buds right now on. If you cut them now, you're not getting any flowers. The
Right.
plant is just fine, but you're not getting any flowers.
Right.
And so the other types that everybody's selling, the paniculata types, the limelights and all that, you can cut those anytime because they bloom after they flower. They'll make new growth and they'll bloom. But you
Yeah.
don't have to know any of that. Cut back after flower. Done. But and I don't mean to say to everybody else, clematis. I don't even touch clematis. Hell, I mean, let them just do their thing.
Yeah. Oh,
I don't mean to
wow.
make it, and I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to say this is the right way. It's just it's gardening. We gotta have fun, and we can't worry too much.
Yeah. And yeah. Yes.
Well,
Listen, I have a few more just simple fun questions for you, and I'm
yep,
gonna let you go here.
okay.
This has been so much fun already, but
I don't know what you're gonna do with all this.
oh gosh, it's gonna be fantastic. But
Okay.
you mentioned at the start of the conversation when you're out there speaking or giving a garden tour, you're getting a gazillion questions and you already know what 8 of them are gonna be because they're
Well,
the
yeah.
same 8 every time. But do you recall a question that you've been asked that was the most unusual thing that someone's ever asked you? Is there anything stick out like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I say I know something, there's some questions that come in there right off the wall. I have
Yeah.
really no idea. So the I'm always going to find. By the way, I've been teaching for 100 years. I'm always going to have some student there that says, "Do you remember me?" That's what.
Oh,
And do you
oof.
remember me? And actually, sometimes I do, but we have a grand time because we had a good time together. But I'll have someone. The other thing, and again, I don't know, Joe, if you've had this, but it's called stump the chump. There's
Oh, yeah.
always somebody that brings a plant from the garden with no flowers and maybe one leaf and wants you to know, wants you to identify it.
Yeah.
And, making you, I say, not look bad. And half the time I don't know what it is. I tell them. But the other ones are, I often get questions on specific plants, like peonies. What do I do with a peony? How come some peonies look good and some don't? And, or why can't I grow, or what do I grow? What do I do with my dahlias? Do I dig them? Do I not dig them? Stuff
Mm.
like that. So I
Mhm.
get a lot of questions on specific plants as well, and we maybe that's book 2, the common sense specifics. I don't know, but and they're all valid questions, and I think we can make it simpler. And I told them about you know it depends where you live and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And annuals. People are always dissing annuals. Oh, it's just another petunia. It's such a crummy marigold. My God, the color you can get out of annuals are just spectacular. And so I will wax eloquent when people ask me about annuals because everybody wants to know the perennials and the shrubs and this, that, and the other thing. So I get a lot. And the one that was really cool is this guy brought up. And this is really cool. And next time we get, I'll bring you some. This guy comes up to the front. I think I'm done, or maybe I don't know. And he has this great big bean pod. It must be this big, okay? Literally, it's like a fish story. It must be this big. And he says, "Do you know what this is?" I have no idea what that was. That's a bean. And anyway, so he didn't know what it was either. Okay, so I said, "Can I have it? Can I see it?" And all this. And I got his name. And it turned out to be, and I love vines. I didn't put them in. I love vines. I put them everywhere. I think I mentioned there was a climbing vine going through a crepe myrtle or something in the
Mhm.
book. But it was a vine, and it was a blind vine that I sussed out, and it was called Cannivalia. But what it was, common name, is jackbean. It
Jack.
is just like Jack and the Beanstalk. If
Wow.
you want a child's garden, you put this sucker in, it'll grow a foot a day. I kid you not. And it'll make these, and it's a bean or a pea. I mean, it makes these flowers, and then it puts on these great big beans. And and so I found all this out, and I grew it in the garden, in the trial garden, and we had them, and I tell stories because I love telling stories. And I wrote the guy, I said, "You've got a really cool plant here, but you can't ever find them." So, I
Oh,
mean, I don't, maybe you can find them, but so all you gotta do is gather the beans and just
yeah.
put the beans in the drawer and put them out next year. They're an annual. So they're really cool though. So those are the kind of questions I actually quite enjoy getting. And I enjoy getting stumped because when I'm stumped, then I'll learn something.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah,
Speaking of
absolutely.
learning some things, we're still learning from you a couple different ways. One, you have a podcast of your own called Stories from the Garden, and I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to you on my Saturday mornings. I've got my earbuds in my ear, and I'm Alan's telling me stories about these plants and all the history of it. And you do that so well. When did you start that? And you're going to keep that going?
Yeah, we'll keep it going.
Yeah,
And again, a lot of those stories are based on that book I mentioned, of Naked Ladies and Forget Me Not Stories from the Garden.
yeah.
And even some of the legends I mentioned. And also in that podcast, I'll just talk about plants I really enjoy
Hmm.
and what we can do with them. Uh, but yeah, I'll keep it going. And I've always enjoyed, and I didn't even know there was such a term called being a storyteller, but I always enjoyed sharing stories of
Yeah,
things I learned. You know,
perfect for
I
you.
said, what is there somebody called Joe Pye who got this silly name? And you go through and you find out, yeah, there is.
I
And,
love that episode. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So those are the kind of stories that I really enjoy sharing. Whether anybody, I don't know. Thank you for listening, but so that I do the podcast, and I got a bunch of other stuff going that allows me to share what I know with your listeners. It's just good fun.
And it's very enjoyable. They're kind of not too long. They're short and sweet, but they're
Yeah,
the story. They're a delight. It's like we're sitting around drinking coffee and you're talking about this plant.
well, again, on stories, make them short, and people, well, it's fun. Because they're not tales, they're not yarns, particularly. They're just a little story about, I think, well, where does barrenwort get its name from? What is a
Mhm.
barrenwort anyway? So things like that.
Right.
They're good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
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 that's a good little overview of it.
yeah.
And then the last thing I wanted to just touch base with you on is your app, Armitage's Great Garden Plants. That is such a nice resource. Is that really free? Did I miss
No, it's
a
not. No, it's
paywall?
not free. It's
Yeah, I was
four
gonna say,
dollars and 95
yeah,
cents.
a
But
whopping
then it's
four
free.
ninety five.
But then I don't make you get the basic type and then ask you to buy the high end type. It's
Yeah,
just there.
yeah.
And we have gone, and that's a lot of information on there.
There
And
is a lot.
there's a ton of stuff, but it's also designed for a gardener. I mean, landscapers like it, and all these other people, but I try to make it not quite as simple as a common sense garden, but pretty simple. Where do you grow it? How do you grow it? What are the good varieties that I like? And then a story. I always have a story with them.
Yeah.
And you can search anything you want, whether you want to search a delphinium or you want to search a dahlia or you want to search a deutzia or something. They're searchable, and it's good. It's out there. It's good, but it's a lot of work, and it's a ton of work.
Well, it
So
shows there's a lot of work because it's very thorough and
yeah,
it's so handy and
yeah.
a lot of there's a lot of meat in there. Once you go to where you're interested in and you click on it, and next thing you know, wow, there's a whole page on that, and I love it. And I think
And
people need
and
to
I
know
and I
about it.
and and I made it so that you can search by annuals, perennials, shrubs, whatever. Then also, there's a whole thing on deer. There's a whole thing on solution gardening because, as you know, most people go into a garden center today, not necessarily wanting Martha's newest, but they have a problem and they need to solve it and they need a
Yeah.
solution. So they go in and say, "What plant can I put here?" That's what they're really trying to figure out. And so I do that in the garden and fragrance and all that kind of stuff as well in that app.
Well, I think part of what makes that really shine for a discerning gardener who's looking for good information is that it was created by a discerning gardener. And that
Yeah,
that translates into the app beautifully. So
yeah, yeah.
good for you. And everybody needs to know about that app. And it's a steal at
Oh, good. I think it is a good one. Actually, it is good for 4.95. That's better than a bad burger. And I mean, really. And but anyway, and it works on both
Android and
iPhones
yeah.
and Androids and all that other stuff. So it's kind of cool. But that the last thing, and I know we both have to go, but this whole common sense gardening book. Uh, people ask me where can I get it? Can I get it on Amazon? The answer is no.
Hmm.
right now. In the spring, when it's the big deal, we'll get it all out in the spring when people are thinking about gardening. But so we just had this for November 15th to December 15th. So if people wanted it, I could get it to them for Christmas.
Yeah.
And so you can mention how to get the book, but I
Mention it.
want to make sure that people understand that Christmas is coming soon, and the postage service is sometimes not as quick as you'd like.
True. Is you have a link dedicated for that? We're going to have it in the show notes, everybody.
Well, all they got to do in your notes is just put Allan Armitage, that's my name, Allan, which I guess is unusual, allanarmitage.net. That's my website.
Yep.
All the books are there, and they can order it through there. And I will, if they wish, I will certainly sign it, and I will personalize it, which is much better than Amazon anyway, if they
Yeah.
wish. Um, but everything is pretty much goes through my website, and it just makes my life easier because then I can meet all these people. It's amazing. I got all these cool stories. I did a cut flower book, and I had this lady from north of the North Pole. I don't know if there's such a place, and she wanted this book. I said, "What cut flowers are you growing up there?" It turned out that her husband, this is up in Canada, her husband was a Royal Canadian Mounted Police who was stationed there, and the town had built a dome,
Oh,
essentially a whole great big greenhouse so people could get out of the cold and grow flowers. I
wow.
just thought that was the coolest thing.
Who
It's, you
knew?
never know who you're going to touch.
Isn't that the truth? How fun. I'm sure there's a lot. Well, I know there's a lot more we could talk about, but we're going to save it for another
Sure,
time.
sure.
This was wonderful. And wow,
Well, you've spent a
flies
lot
when
of
you're
time,
having
and
fun.
I hope people don't get too bored. But it's been great fun just hanging out.
Yeah, Alan, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. You delivered in spades. I knew it would be good, but just lots of laughs during
Well,
this.
anyway,
Indeed.
everybody enjoy your Christmas, Joe. Have a fabulous time, and let's make sure you and I get together again as soon as we can.
Well, what a fun conversation. If Dr. Armitage, or Dr. A as he's commonly known, is new to you, he is the real deal and a true asset to gardeners and horticulturists alike. So if you have any questions or comments about today's episode or anything you want to know, please leave them below and I will be checking for that and responding to you within a few hours or a couple of days at the most. But I look forward to reading what you have to say. I read every comment. And also be sure to check out for any relevant links. We put those in the notes as well. So you can be really caught up on everything related to what we talked about today, including the link to Dr. Armitage's new book. And that's going to be important because it's very timely. I've got some announcements that I'm going to share with you in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get into those. There are 3 that are time sensitive that I want you to know about. First is the annual holiday gift guide that we update every year ahead of the holiday season. It's a summary of my favorite gardening tools, gear, and gadgets, kind of like Oprah's favorite things. And you might want to know about those for yourself or that special gardener in your life. It's a one-stop shop of the things that I use and love, and I think are definitely worthy of your consideration too. So you can check out the guide from our website at joegardner.com/gift guide, all one word, no spaces, and we'll try to have the link in here too. Again, joegardner.com/gift guide. All right, so the next one is if you've been following my brand new raised bed rebuild project that's been going on now for several weeks, we've had great interest online, mainly Instagram and Facebook, and so many questions have come from what we've been sharing. So I wanted to do a YouTube live event to answer all those questions and share pictures of it all, and plus take your questions live as well if time permits. Now, this is happening on Tuesday, December 16th at 12 noon Eastern Time, right here on this YouTube channel, Joe Gardner TV. So be on the lookout for that, and please join us. I think it's going to be a really interesting session, and of course, we'll have it for you to watch later too. And a reminder regarding Dr. A's new book, The Common Sense Gardener. You can order it now through December 15th only, just to ensure that it has time to get there by Christmas. But this is a book for every gardener, and the recipient that's going to get this is going to be very happy. But be aware that this is only available through Allan's website, and we'll have the link to that in the notes. But if you want to know now, it's allanarmitage.net. And again, that link will be in the notes here. All right, so that's going to do it for today. As we close, thanks as always to Amy Prentice, Brendan O'Reilly, and Christine LaFond for their help with this podcast and all of them every week. And thank you for joining me today. If you're a regular viewer, I appreciate that. And if you're new, welcome and thanks for being here. My goal for every episode is to help you take the guesswork out of gardening by teaching you the why-do behind the how-to so that you can become a better, smarter, more confident gardener. That's what it's all about. I'll be back here again next Thursday for another episode of the Joe Gardener Show podcast, and I look forward to having you right back here to join me for that. Until then, have a great week. Take care, and I'll see you back here really soon, and thanks for watching.